Everyone is warmly welcome to our new movie recap YouTube channel. For our very first recap, we have brought you the amazing film of Dulker Salmon, which was recently released in this year. So, let's start the story of this incredible film like this way. Bhaskar is an ordinary worker at a bank. He has a strong belief in his heart that he will be promoted to the position of manager, which drives him to work hard, with dedication and effort. But the promotion doesn't go to Bhaskar, it goes to someone else. Bhaskar's wife also had high hopes that after the promotion, they would be able to overcome their financial struggles. They had big dreams about how things would improve once that promotion was achieved. However, everything falls apart. Bhaskar is left with nothing, and he ends up in a situation where he and his family are left on the streets. That's when Bhaskar makes a tough decision. After working so hard with dedication for so long, he realizes it's all been in vain. And so, from this point on, Bhaskar begins to find a different way to earn money. What method does he choose? Will his dreams come true? Can Bhaskar become a rich man? These are the questions at the core of this intriguing story. It's not just a unique tale, but in the end, this incredible film manages to deliver a strong message to society. The film is Lucky Bhaskar, released in 2024, which currently holds an IMDb rating of 8.3. From that, you can already get an idea of how impressive this film is. We invite all our viewers to watch the entire story of this superb film until the last minute.
Before we start the video, just a quick reminder for those who are new to our movie recap channel, please click the subscribe button below. And don't forget to click the bell icon next to it, so you'll never miss any updates. Got it? Now, let's dive into the story. Why doesn't Bhaskar get the promotion he was hoping for? And after that, what desperate situation does Bhaskar find himself in, leading him to find new ways to make money? Will he be able to become rich? Along the way, what kind of obstacles will he face? Let's find out in this video. The main character of this film is Bhaskar. Right at the beginning of the movie, we see CBI officers storming in and arresting Bhaskar on the spot. The reason? Bhaskar is accused of committing a major fraud. They begin investigating all of his accounts in detail. So, who is Bhaskar, and what kind of fraud did he commit? The answers to these questions lie at the heart of the film's main story. From this point onward, the movie takes us back a few years, specifically to 1989, revealing what really happened. Bhaskar is portrayed as an ordinary yet dedicated employee at a bank called Magadha Bank. He's known for his friendly nature and good relationships with everyone at the bank. He works diligently and has earned the trust of his colleagues. At this bank, the current assistant manager is set to retire in a few days. Bhaskar strongly believes he will be promoted to that position. His confidence grows when the bank manager, Himanshu, assures him, saying, "You've worked so well for a long time, which is why I've recommended you for the position of assistant manager. So, continue working diligently just as you always have." Hearing this, Bhaskar is thrilled and begins his workday with even more enthusiasm. At this bank, Bhaskar is in charge of tasks such as withdrawing money from the vault, handling transactions, and at the end of the day, tallying all accounts and securing the cash back in the vault. For the past 3 years, Bhaskar has even received the Best Employee of the Year award for his exceptional work. Bhaskar is a very dedicated and honest employee who manages his tasks at the bank exceptionally well. Besides his regular work, Bhaskar also has a side hustle at the bank, almost like a part-time job. Some people who come to the bank don't know how to handle their paperwork. Bhaskar helps them by charging a small fee. This is the side job Bhaskar does at the bank apart from his main duties, and he earns a little extra income from it. After finishing his work for the day, Bhaskar heads home. On the way, Patel, a man Bhaskar had borrowed money from a while back, stops him. Bhaskar hasn't been able to repay the debt yet, and Patel asks him when he plans to settle it. Bhaskar, having no money at the moment, assures Patel that he will repay it as soon as possible. Bhaskar eventually gets home. His father, Kumar, was once a senior government official who retired many years ago. Now, Kumar is partially paralyzed, and Bhaskar takes care of all his needs. Bhaskar's mother is no longer alive. Bhaskar is married to Sumathi, and they have a son named Karthik. Today is Sumathi's nephew's birthday, and there's a celebration at her brother's house. Bhaskar, Sumathi, and Karthik go there together. However, a major issue arises. Sumathi's family doesn't treat her with respect. They look down on her. In particular, her brother's wife, who is Karthik's aunt, acts very dismissively. For instance, she gives large pieces of cake to the other children, but only a small piece to Karthik. Karthik, who loves cake, asks why he isn't given a bigger piece. His aunt rudely replies that people like them only deserve small portions. Sumathi overhears this, and it deeply hurts her. Knowing her mother sides entirely with her brother, Sumathi decides not to stay there any longer. She leaves with Bhaskar and Karthik. By this time, Karthik is hungry. They had come to the party expecting to eat, but they didn't get the chance. Now, Bhaskar stops by a roadside shop to buy 3 meals. However, he realizes he doesn't have enough money in his purse to pay for all 3. Embarrassed, Bhaskar asks the shopkeeper for just 2 meals. Understanding the situation, the kind shopkeeper gives Bhaskar 3 meals and only charges him for 2. Sumathi, realizing the financial struggles her family is facing, tells Bhaskar that she wants to find a job too. Bhaskar understands her feelings but isn't too worried. He believes that once he gets promoted, their problems will be solved. Recently, the assistant manager of the bank retired, and Bhaskar is hopeful that he will be chosen to fill that position. If he gets the promotion, his salary will double, and their financial struggles will end. Bhaskar shares this hope with Sumathi, and both of them dream of a better future. The next day, we see Bhaskar at work, where he continues his small side hustle, helping customers with their paperwork for a small fee. During this time, a man named Anthony approaches Bhaskar. Anthony has some goods stuck at the port, and he needs 100,000 rupees to get them released. Since it's around 1989, 100,000 rupees is a significant amount. However, Anthony doesn't have any documents or collateral to support his loan request. Regretfully, Bhaskar informs Anthony that it's not possible to help him without the necessary paperwork. At this moment in the bank, the character Samba, Bhaskar's best friend, comes in to talk to him. Samba suggests they find a way to raise the 200,000 that Anthony needs. Samba convinces Bhaskar that if they help Anthony, they too can earn a share of the profits. Anthony agrees to the plan, but Bhaskar is still hesitant and only promises Anthony that he'll think about it later. The next scene shifts to the following day, an important one for Bhaskar. It's the day he expects his dream to come true by being promoted to assistant manager. Bhaskar begins his day with prayers at the church. However, Patel arrives looking for Bhaskar. Earlier, Patel had visited Bhaskar's house, but Bhaskar avoided him by asking Sumathi to send him away. Now, Patel, still angry, forcibly checks Bhaskar's purse, but finds no money in it. Frustrated, Patel takes Bhaskar's bike, promising to return it once the loan is cleared. The entire village witnesses this confrontation, leaving Bhaskar embarrassed. Despite this, Bhaskar collects himself and heads to the bank. But here, he learns a shocking truth: position of assistant manager, which he had hoped for, has been given to someone else. Bhaskar is devastated, especially since the manager had previously assured him of the promotion. When Bhaskar questions the manager directly, asking why he wasn't selected despite his years of hard work, the manager reveals that he knows Bhaskar has been doing part-time jobs outside the bank, which is against the rules. Angry, the manager threatens to fire Bhaskar entirely. Bhaskar, realizing his mistake, begs for forgiveness. Other staff members intervene on Bhaskar's behalf, convincing the manager to let him keep his job. Humiliated and disheartened, Bhaskar resolves to continue his work as usual. Later that evening, Bhaskar meets Samba for tea. Anthony arrives again, asking if Bhaskar can arrange the 200,000. This time, Bhaskar agrees. He hands over the money, taken from the bank's reserves, to Anthony, instructing him to ensure both the loan amount and their promised share are returned. Samba is shocked and asks Bhaskar how he managed to come up with such a large sum. Bhaskar explains that since he was in charge of logging the day's transactions, he deliberately recorded 100,000 less and kept the money for himself. There were no advanced systems or security cameras back then, making it possible for him to pull off the theft. The scene then shifts focus to Anthony's real issue. He is involved in an illegal operation where goods are smuggled into the country through the port and sold in India for high profits. Customs officers are bribed to look the other way. This time, Anthony's shipment, worth 100,000, is at risk of being auctioned because he couldn't pay the necessary amount on time. Bhaskar's stolen money helps to Anthony to recover the shipment. Anthony reassures Bhaskar that he will repay both the loan amount and their promised share soon before leaving the scene. After this, we see that Bhaskar is coming to home. Sumathi was waiting for him to come, but when Bhaskar arrives, he tells to Sumathi that the expectations she had were not met. After hearing this, Sumathi feels very sad. However, after this, we see that Bhaskar is anxiously waiting for Anthony to come back. Sometimes, Anthony could be involved in something illegal, or there might be a problem with the police, which would lead to him losing the 2 lakhs he promised. Losing those 2 lakhs would mean Bhaskar losing his earnings as well. Knowing this risk, Bhaskar gave to Anthony the money, and as expected, nothing bad happened. Anthony returned, greeted Bhaskar, and because of the help he received from him, Anthony managed to save his belongings. He sold those and paid to Bhaskar the 2 lakhs he promised. Bhaskar was very happy. This made Anthony accept Bhaskar, as he had been in a difficult situation without money before. But now, Bhaskar had no problems, money was coming in. Thanks to this, Bhaskar paid Patel the relevant money and got his bike back. Later, we see that Bhaskar returned the 2 lakhs he had received, even after marking it, without any issues. This means no one knows that the money was not in the bank for a while. Bhaskar uses this method to ensure no one finds out. This situation won't stop here, as there will always be more financial needs. In every instance, Bhaskar secretly gives to Anthony the money he needs. Anthony uses the money to continue his work. The money he received wasn't the only thing. Bhaskar also got the promised amount back. This is how Bhaskar kept getting money without trouble, and now he didn't face any shortage. He even brought goods to home. Sumathi started to notice all these changes, but Bhaskar didn't tell her anything. However, Sumathi became suspicious and started wondering where Bhaskar was getting all the money from. Eventually, Bhaskar told her that he was running a business selling goods abroad and making extra income from it. A few months later, it was their son Karthik's birthday. At that point, Bhaskar had money in hand, so they decided to throw a big birthday celebration. Anthony also attended, and during the celebration, he discussed an important matter with Bhaskar and his family. Anthony was thinking about stopping all this illegal activities, but before doing that, he expected to make a profit from this one as the last venture. This time, instead of small items, there were 3 vehicles. If sold, they would bring in a lot of money. However, for this to happen, Bhaskar would need to give to Anthony 100,000. Anthony thought if they did this as last deal, they wouldn't face any problems and they would earn a significant profit. Anthony was planning to use the money to open a restaurant in America, as his son was currently there. But Bhaskar wasn't comfortable with the idea. Although Bhaskar could manage to lakhs, 100,000 was too risky, so he refused to participate. After the celebration, Bhaskar noticed the happy tears in his son Karthik's eyes. For so long, Karthik had been going to his friends' birthday parties and always being teased by them about never throwing his own party. But today, Karthik was having a big celebration, so now he wouldn't have to face that embarrassment again. This made Karthik is very happy, and Bhaskar also felt emotional seeing his son's joy. However, after all this, Bhaskar felt sad. He had helped to Anthony with all his work and earned money, but he hadn't saved anything for himself. He had brought goods home, paid the loans, and spent the remaining money on this celebration. But now, if he wanted to keep his family's happiness intact, he realized that he would have to go along with Anthony's final plan, as that would bring in a large sum of money. So, in the end, Bhaskar decided to help to Anthony with his final venture. After that, Bhaskar speaks with Anthony and agrees to go ahead with the plan. The next day, we see Bhaskar heading to work carrying a large suitcase. Since 10 lakhs is a substantial amount that cannot fit in his regular bag, he has the suitcase. Others at work, noticing the unusual suitcase, ask him about it. Bhaskar lies, saying he has to leave for Chennai in the evening and didn't have time to pack it home, so he brought his suitcase to work. On this day, Bhaskar withdraws a slightly larger amount from the bank's secure vault because he needs to skim off 10 lakhs. At the end of the day, he falsifies records to show a deficit of 10 lakhs, which he places in his suitcase. However, there's a complication. Bhaskar's supervisor is suspicious of him. To distract the supervisor, Bhaskar asks from Samba for help. He tells Samba to make a call pretending to be from their branch's headquarters and engage the supervisor in a conversation. This plan works perfectly, allowing Bhaskar to sneak out with the money. As planned, Anthony's group uses the stolen money to purchase the 3 cars they were targeting. However, an unforeseen problem arises. The beer who was supposed to purchase these cars from them has been arrested by the police. This leaves them in a tough spot since they can't sell the vehicles and have no way to recover the stolen 10 lakhs. Both Samba and Anthony become extremely anxious, but Bhaskar, remaining calm, suggests to Anthony that find another beer. Anthony eventually contacts a different beer in Goa, who agrees to the deal. We then see the group transporting the cars. Along the way, they have to pass through police checkpoints. To avoid suspicion, Bhaskar devises a clever plan. They plant a rumor that these vehicles belong to a prominent politician. This convinces the police at the checkpoints, and they face no issues. As expected, the group sells the cars, earning not just the 10 lakhs, but also a considerable profit. Bhaskar generously compensates everyone who helped along the way, knowing the plan wouldn't have succeeded without their support. Later, Anthony accompanies the group to the airport. Having made a significant amount from the deal, Anthony plans to move to America to start a restaurant and bids farewell to Bhaskar and Samba. Before leaving, Anthony gives his number to Bhaskar, telling him to call if needed. The following morning, Bhaskar heads back to work with the suitcase, intending to return the money to the vault and cover his fault. But when he approaches the bank, he notices police officers are outside. Nervous, he walks in cautiously and finds the police inside the bank as well. Bhaskar assumes they've discovered his crime and prepares for the worst. However, he soon learns that the police are investigating a long-running embezzlement scheme by the bank manager. They are unaware of Bhaskar's actions. Relieved but still cautious, Bhaskar realizes he must return the money before anyone suspects him. He sits down, pretending to be unfazed, and begins his work. Bhaskar falsifies records again, this time entering that he had withdrawn an additional 10 lakhs that day, replacing the stolen amount in the vault. By carefully covering his tracks, Bhaskar ensures no one grows suspicious, bringing the risky ordeal to a close. But here's where a new problem arises. The general manager GM notices an unusual detail, a large suitcase near Bhaskar, something that's not typically there. Suspicious, the GM insists on inspecting the suitcase. Now, you probably understand that Bhaskar had taken only 4 million rupees from the safe earlier, but he had recorded it as 5 million. To cover this up, he planned to hide the missing 1 million in the suitcase. However, before he could execute this plan, the GM decided to investigate the suitcase. According to the safe's records, 5 million rupees were withdrawn, but only 4 million are physically present. If the missing 1 million is found in Bhaskar's suitcase, everyone will assume he tried to steal it. Bhaskar is left with no choice but to open the suitcase and show its contents to the GM. Acting quickly, Bhaskar removes the missing 1 million from the suitcase and discreetly places it elsewhere. As a result, the suitcase is empty when opened, and there's no trace of the missing funds. Thus, the full 5 million is accounted for, and no one suspects Bhaskar of any wrongdoing. Later that day, Samba meets Bhaskar. Samba has decided to continue Anthony's line of work, even though Anthony is no longer involved. However, Bhaskar refuses to join him, having narrowly escaped trouble earlier. Bhaskar doesn't want to risk getting caught again. Despite Bhaskar's disapproval, Samba goes ahead with his decision and resigns from the bank the very next day to fully commit to his new venture. Because of his previous dealings with Anthony, Bhaskar has some leftover money, release 600,000 rupees. However, an unexpected situation arises when Bhaskar's younger brother receives an opportunity to study in America. This opportunity requires 600,000 rupees in expenses. Without hesitation, Bhaskar decides to use his entire remaining savings to support his brother's education. With his plans completely disrupted, Bhaskar is now left with nothing. Time passes, and one day, the bank's chairman arrives and requests a private meeting with Bhaskar. The chairman reveals that corruption has been uncovered within the bank and plans are underway to restructure everything. Moving forward, only the most trustworthy employees will be promoted to new positions. Bhaskar, despite his close call earlier, has managed to maintain his reputation. No one suspects him of any misdeeds, and his colleagues hold him in high regard for his integrity. That's why the chairman appoints Bhaskar to the senior position in the bank. Upon hearing this, Bhaskar is overjoyed. Not only that, but Himanshu, who was previously caught in a fraud and dismissed, also loses the car given to him, which Bhaskar inherits. That morning, Bhaskar, who went to work on a bike, returns home in the evening in a car. Sumathi is astonished, and so is everyone else who sees him. Later, Bhaskar shares his promotion as the senior manager with Sumathi, and she, too, is thrilled. Now, don't forget the current situation. At this moment, the CBI has realized that Bhaskar has committed a significant fraud. They are investigating all his accounts. Bhaskar's accounts reveal not just a few million, but a staggering 1 billion rupees. This points to a massive fraud Bhaskar has carried out. What exactly Bhaskar does and how he navigates these challenges forms the crux of the main story. Let's return to the narrative. The chairman not only appoints Bhaskar as the senior manager, but also assigns him additional responsibilities. One such responsibility involves handling interbank loans. For a long time, this bank has been granting loans to a Qatari bank. However, these interbank transactions often take time to process. To expedite this, they follow a roundabout method. Instead of directly transferring money from this bank to the Qatari bank, the funds are first credited to the account of Harsha, a prominent businessman. Harsha then transfers the money to the Qatari bank. Similarly, loan repayments follow the same method. The Qatari bank transfers funds to Harsha's account, from which it's then repaid to this bank. To facilitate this, Sudhir, Harsha's representative, comes to Bhaskar with the required documents. Sudhir gets Bhaskar's signature as the senior manager to withdraw money. However, Sudhir delays the repayment by a few days, during which significant sums are involved. Bhaskar grows suspicious, as such a delay could lead to a significant fraud. Based on his experience, Bhaskar suspects something isn't right and starts examining past account details. He notices a pattern: the massive sums of money withdrawn from this bank never actually reach the Qatari bank. Instead, after being deposited into Harsha's account, they are diverted elsewhere. Bhaskar grows curious about Harsha's intentions and investigates further. He discovers Harsha is manipulating the stock market. Harsha's team predicts price fluctuations in the market and inflates stock prices by making large purchases. Once the prices rise, they sell off their stocks, making enormous profits. Harsha uses the funds borrowed from this bank to manipulate the stock market. Bhaskar decides to inform the higher-ups about this scheme, but then realizes he could leverage this situation for his benefit. Instead of exposing the fraud, Bhaskar sets conditions for Sudhir. First, Bhaskar demands a 1% cut from all future loans sanctioned by this bank to Harsha. Second, Sudhir must inform him in advance of any stock market predictions or schemes by Harsha. This way, Bhaskar can also invest and profit alongside Harsha. Sudhir agrees to these terms. Bhaskar soon starts making significant money. However, he realizes he can't openly spend these funds without raising suspicion. He remembers a friend, Anwar, who is skilled in laundering money. Anwar advises Bhaskar to show the income as lottery winnings. Bhaskar follows this advice and successfully launders his money. Using insider information from Sudhir, Bhaskar starts investing in stocks, earning even more profits. Over time, he accumulates immense wealth. Bhaskar's family prospers, and preparations begin for his sister's wedding. While shopping for gold for the wedding,
at this point, Bhaskar realizes a few things. Customers who arrive in large vehicles receive special treatment at the gold shop. They are even offered refreshments. But Bhaskar, having come with his family in a small car, notices that they're not given the same level of attention. This makes him realize that despite having plenty of money, his financial status isn't immediately apparent to others. Frustrated, Bhaskar pauses his plans to buy gold and instead takes his family to shop for branded clothes. Spending lavishly, he buys outfits not just for himself, but for his entire family. Determined to make a better impression at the gold shop, Bhaskar even purchases a new vehicle. When he and his family arrive again, dressed in branded clothing and stepping out of the luxurious car, they are treated with the utmost respect, as if they belong to a wealthy family. Bhaskar does all this solely to earn such recognition for his family. As Bhaskar's wealth increases, so does his arrogance. However, Sumathi, his wife, still has no idea how Bhaskar managed to earn so much money. Months go by, and Bhaskar continues to amass a fortune through the same secretive methods. To ensure there are no legal issues with the money, he entrusts Anwar, a confidant, to help. Anwar suggests starting a private business to justify the income legally. After careful consideration, Bhaskar decides to support Sumathi's long-held dream of starting a pickles business. He invests a significant amount to set it up, and the profits from the business serve as a cover for his other earnings, giving the appearance of legality. Later, we see Bhaskar's car parked in a way that causes heavy traffic congestion. Villagers complain that the car needs to be removed, but Bhaskar resolves the issue by simply paying everyone involved a monthly fee to allow his car to remain there permanently. Bhaskar declares, "This car will always be parked here, and I won't move it." His growing arrogance becomes evident as he uses money to solve every problem. While Bhaskar's wealth has grown significantly, the happiness within his family has diminished. Sumathi realizes this and tries to make Bhaskar understand that despite their previous lack of wealth, they had true happiness. But now, with all the money, that joy has completely disappeared. Bhaskar, however, fails to grasp this, continuing down his path blinded by his newfound success. Next day at the bank,
Bhaskar notices something unusual away. Before long, Bhaskar finds himself entangled in a big problem. The issue arises when Hariharan, the manager of the Qatari bank, comes to meet him. At that time, Bhaskar was secretly preparing forged documents for the money he was providing to Harsha. However, with Hariharan's arrival, Bhaskar realizes that there's a huge fraud happening, even without his awareness. When Harsha needed money, he presented separate documents allegedly signed by the Qatari bank. But now, it becomes clear that Harsha had, in fact, taken loans amounting to crores from the bank where Bhaskar works without the Qatari bank knowing. Bhaskar had assumed that everything was being handled through the Qatari bank, but none of the documents came from there. Harsha had forged them. It's only after Hariharan points this out that Bhaskar becomes aware of the situation. This puts Bhaskar and Hariharan in trouble. Hariharan, who has a heart condition, can't handle the shock and passes away on the spot. This leaves Bhaskar alone and facing the consequences. Bhaskar confronts Sudhir, questioning what he had done, as Sudhir was the intermediary in all this. However, it turns out that Sudhir had been aware of everything from the beginning. He advises Bhaskar to accept the risks and continue with the plan, as there's no other option now. Days pass as Bhaskar contemplates his next steps, unable to find a solution. Then, he gets a call about Samba, who had been caught by the police for conducting illegal activities. Bhaskar manages to bribe the police and secure Samba's release. Around the same time, it's revealed that Samatha's brother is bankrupt, even though Samatha's family is financially stable. Bhaskar's group approaches Sumathi to ask for a large loan. However, Sumathi refuses, recalling how her brother's family had looked down on her family when they were struggling. Angry and hurt, she declines to help. Sumathi is furious with Bhaskar, as she feels he has changed completely, prioritizing money over everything else. Bhaskar tries to explain, but she walks away, saying she doesn't even want to see him anymore. Meanwhile, Bhaskar's father, Kumar, a retired government officer, recognizes that Bhaskar's obsession with money has made him lose sight of his family values. He warns Bhaskar that pursuing money through unlawful means is like driving a fast car, will crash sooner or later. Bhaskar's realizations come too late. He learns that Sumathi has also discovered the fraud he committed through the pickle shop. Overwhelmed with guilt, Bhaskar decides to stop everything and make amends.
Bhaskar begins to reflect on his actions and realizes that his pursuit of money led him to make several mistakes in the past. He understands that he needs to correct those errors first. Bhaskar then speaks to Samba and his cousin. At this point, Samba has no source of income, and Bhaskar's cousin is also frustrated. To help them, Bhaskar provides the necessary capital for them to start a business of their own, ensuring that they won't face further difficulties. After this, Bhaskar takes responsibility for his past mistakes and seeks forgiveness from everyone he wronged. He also promises Sumathi that while they cannot change the past, he will return to being the old Bhaskar they once knew, and they can find happiness again.
However, Sudhir, acting as a middleman, brings fake documents demanding crores from Bhaskar. This time, Bhaskar drives Sudhir away. Enraged, Sudhir reports Bhaskar to the company chairman, who confronts Bhaskar and orders him to comply. But Bhaskar has had enough and refuses to participate in any further fraud. Bhaskar decides to leave the bank entirely. But just when things seem to settle, the CBI intervenes, having discovered Bhaskar's past actions. However, Bhaskar soon realizes that the CBI team is also aligned with Harsha, pressuring him to transfer all his money to Harsha's account to avoid further trouble. The chairman and GM, who had known about the fraud all along, were using Bhaskar as a scapegoat. In the end, Bhaskar chooses his family over money. He transfers all his funds to Harsha and walks out of the bank, smiling, seemingly at peace. Days later, it's revealed that Bhaskar had frozen his accounts beforehand, rendering the transfer useless. Bhaskar, along with his family, leaves for America, executing a plan he had carefully devised with his father and Anthony, a trusted ally abroad. Bhaskar didn't stop there. He reported everything to the police, leading to the arrest of not only Harsha, who was behind the fraud, but also the general manager and the chairman. A few months later, we see Bhaskar in a much better place. He now owns a hotel in America under his name. Bhaskar no longer earns money through dishonest means because he finally realized that his family's happiness is more important than wealth. From that point on, Bhaskar works hard honestly for the well-being of his family. And that's how this incredible film concludes. The message it conveys is simple yet powerful. Money gained through wrongful means doesn't last long, and in the process, you lose your happiness as well. This film beautifully emphasizes that family happiness is far more valuable than wealth. So, what are your thoughts on this movie? Make sure to leave a comment below. Let's meet again soon with another amazing movie recap.